So what did we discuss in the previous class? Which scripture are we discussing? Very good. We are discussing the Bhagavad Gita. Which chapter? Chapter 6. So what did we discuss in the previous class? About the mind. Mind is the cause of attachment as well as liberation. What else?
We should transform our attachment to the sages so that we will help us to.
Which verse was that? Prasanga majaram pasam atmana kavayo viduhu sa eva sadhusho krito moksha dwaram apavritam. Attachment, it is very difficult in this material world to be without attachment. The jiva has to get attached to something or the other, right? So attachment to the things of this material world is the cause of our bondage. But the same attachment, when dovetailed towards saintly personalities, becomes the cause of our liberation. So the attachment is the common aspect. If its attachment is for worldly things, it binds. If attachment is towards saintly personalities, it liberates. So that way, if someone tells you, Prabhuji, you are a devotee, you should not be attached to your wife and son and daughter, then how will you respond? How will you respond? Good morning, everyone.
If you do Nishkama Karma, you are duty but not be attached.
Okay. Hands up if you can do your duty without being attached to your son or daughter. Only one person in this room is like that. No, she quickly put her hand down. So what is the reality?
It's tough, it's very difficult.
We are attached to our children. Let's accept it. Isn't it? It is very difficult to be detached. We are not on that platform right now. To be detached from our child and our wife and our... If that were to be true, then life would have been different. But the beauty of Bhakti Yoga is that we don't really need to be detached from them. We can be attached to them, but the center of that attachment should be Krishna. So we have to be attached to our family in a way such that that attachment increases our Krishna consciousness, does not bring down our Krishna consciousness. If we cannot love our own near and dear ones, how can we love Krishna? Not possible, isn't it? If a father cannot love his son, or if a mother cannot love her own daughters, so parents cannot love their children, and the children cannot love their own parents, then there is no question of, if we cannot love our material father. No. Of course, there are very specific cases where many people undergo a lot of abuse from their own parents in their childhood. Those are exceptions of Kali Yuga. But generally, the general principle is what? We are attached to our family. So all we need to do is that transform that attachment such that Krishna is in the center of that attachment and we are not in the center of that attachment. So then that relationships will become perfect. For example, let's take an example. Let's say your boss does not give you leave. You want leave to go for Vrindavan Yatra. Your Guru Maharaj is doing Vrindavan Yatra. But this is for the Grihasthas. Your boss does not give you leave. Right? Now your wife wants to go for the Yatra. Then what do? You are attached to her. Don't go. Because I can't. You have to be there with me. I will feel separation from you. Of course, I hope that feeling is there in everyone. But I am assuming that if that feeling is there, then that is an attachment which is preventing her from progressing in Krishna consciousness. Whereas that attachment should be such that if you want to attend your spiritual master's yatra, I can't come, but you go. So that attachment should not come in the way of the spouse's devotional activities. Similarly, the spouse's attachment to the husband should not come in the way of the husband's devotional services. So then there has to be a balance. However, please understand, this should not be misunderstood. It doesn't mean that Monday, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, wife is in one corner doing deity services, husband, and then remaining 3 days, husband is in one corner and child is going to child care. That is not Grihastha family, right? And then when we ask them, what is going on? Prabhuji, full of services, no time for child at all. All Krishna Bhakti only. Because everything is, at the end of the day, we have so much, so many services are there that I don't have any time for my children, Prabhu. Then there is something wrong in your Grihastha ashram. You are in the wrong ashram then. This means that you are in the consciousness of a brahmachari, but you are in the ashram of a Grihastha. Grihastha ashram means there is some adjustment. If we cannot take care of our family and then we are doing 50,000 services in the temple, there is something seriously wrong with our Grihastha ashram. So the duty has to be balanced. It has to be balanced. In fact, it is said, Lord Rishabhdev said what? Do not become a father. Do not become a mother if you can't deliver your dependents. So there is no question of ignoring, the family and then going on a world tour, a preaching tour to transform the whole world. That is, unfortunately, that is not Grihastha ashram. If one has that desire, then one could have taken brahmachari and then moved to sannyasa ashram. But once we are married, then it is a duty of the husband to take care of the wife to take care of the husband, and together take care of the son. But it doesn't mean that because they are taking nice care of one another, then Krishna consciousness goes for a toss. So it is a balance. It's a balance. Grihastha ashram means balance. I don't know why I came to Grihastha ashram, but so I was talking about attachment. Okay. Because I come from Grihastha ashram. Therefore, I from my own experience, Grihastha ashram, their attachments are higher than in brahmachari or brahmacharini ashram. The attachment level is higher. But it doesn't mean that that one should not enter Grihastha ashram simply because there is attachment. It simply means that attachment has to be with Krishna in the center. Then that family becomes Vasudeva Kutumbam. A family with center as Lord Krishna. Okay. What else did we discuss? Of course, we didn't discuss in detail this example, but we discussed the principle of attachment and the mind. Anything else you can remember, Rashi Prabhu? Previous class. Control of mind. How do you control the mind?
When it comes to following the super source which comes in the form of Sri Guru. So mind can be controlled by following the instructions of the spiritual master.
Yeah. So the mind can be controlled by following the instructions of the spiritual master. Keshav Prabhu once told us when we were doing the Bhakti Vaibhav course, he told us that Tamal Krishna Maharaj told him that I have learnt not to trust my mind. This was Tamal Krishna Maharaj who was saying, I have learnt not to trust my mind. Because our mind will always give us suggestions for sense gratification, or our mind will tell us what is very conducive for us to hear. In fact, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, therefore, what did he say? Every morning, beat your mind with slipper. How many times? 10,000 times. Beat your mind. And this morning, actually, when I was chanting Japa after Mangalarti, I was chanting. At that time, I suddenly remembered this because my mind was wandering somewhere. So I remembered how to execute this instruction. I was thinking, So then I remembered, beat it with a slipper, and actually I did that. I imagined I'm beating my mind. Shut up, don't go there and concentrate on the holy names of the Lord. And actually it works. You start beating the mind, mentally. Just keep quiet and go in that corner. And then let me hear the holy name. And you have to give yourself self-suggestion like that. And then come back and hear the holy names. Otherwise the mind takes you on a round trip. You start on 10th round and you realize you are chanting only during the 15th round. By the time 15, 4, 5 have gone already. Like that. So therefore we have to keep getting the mind back to the holy name. We also discussed how must one watch the mind?
Like a mother keeps eye on
the way a mother keeps eye on the teenage son or teenage daughter. In that way we have to keep eye on our mind. Always vigilant. Where is it going? Otherwise it can get you into trouble. Like that. Okay. So that is the way we have to take care. Okay. So we also talked about various examples. Yeah, and this mind is verily within ourselves. We discussed that, right? Just like the deer goes around and searches for musk, but the musk is inside the deer itself, so it doesn't need to search outside. So the mind, which is the cause of bondage, if we make our mind our own friend, then that mind can take us to liberation. So we have to learn how to talk to our mind. In fact, when I was in Chowpatty 2 years back, so Premnidhi Prabhu was advising me this. He said, you must get into the activity daily of chatting with your own mind. Okay? Because mind will tell you so many things. Mind will tell you so many things. For example, if some devotee is irritating you, so what will happen? Immediately the mind will tell you, give it back. Right? So then what you do, you have a conversation. Okay, mind, I understand that you want me to give it back. Yeah, give it back. No, it will say. Then you say, okay, hang on, let's take a step back. But what if that can it be solved without giving it back? This is the kind of conversations we have with our mind. Because our mind is immediately telling you, do this. And you go and simply blast some devotee just because of some issue. So therefore it is required to have conversations with the mind always. By having such conversations, we become proactive in our response to someone. So this is Manas Siksha, training the mind. We have to train the mind. All of us are in a diseased condition today. We are servants of our mind. We also saw, someone in Hindi says, मैं अपने मन का मालिक हूँ. I am the master of my mind. Thus, I do whatever my mind tells me. Therefore, I am the master of my mind. But actually, in this sentence, you are not the master. You are the servant of your mind. Because you are doing what the mind tells you. If your mind does what the soul tells, then you are the master of your mind. So, and that's what we need to make our thought process. We have to practice that constantly, so that we keep speaking to that mind, so that we are able to control our responses, rather than the situation overwhelming us. So we saw that. We stopped at verse 6, right? Last time. Anyone remembers where we stopped? So we will quickly do 7 to 9. Because today I wanted to do actually verses 10 to 17, but you are lagging behind. So we will do 7 to 17 today. Okay? So, yeah. So 7th verse. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. Shall I continue? Yes. Okay. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. For he has attained tranquility. I'll repeat. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. I'll read 8 and 9 also. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or a mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones or gold, as the same. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediators, the envious friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. So we'll read the purport of number 8. Madhavanand Prabhu, you want to read?
Book knowledge without realization of the Supreme Truth is useless. This is stated as follows. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. This Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane fellowship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled, because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones.
So what are the points here? Class starts at 7. Thank you.
You must take the association of pure devotee or person with pure consciousness to understand the transcendental knowledge.
Is that a statement or a question?
That's one.
Okay.
Can understand Krishna only through the devotional practice, not through the mundane knowledge.
Krishna talks about making the mind your friend in 6.6. And in 7 and 8 and 9 he explains that once we have made the mind the friend, then our realization deepens and grows. So in 6.7 he is saying that we start becoming neutral to material things like stones and pebbles. And then in 8 I think he says, no, in 6 he says we become neutral to the dualities, treated gold. Then in 7 he says we become neutral to the material things like stones and pebbles. And then in 9 he says that we start seeing people equally as well, whether they are our friend or our foe. And then in 8 Srila Prabhupada explains that Krishna can be realized through devotional service and not by mere academic scholarships and all this.
And we receive the devotion through the mercy of Krishna. And we receive the devotion through the mercy of Krishna.
Yes. Yeah.
Question. This is said that one who has controlled the mind is as good as who has achieved super soul. So how do we, is it just mind control, or we cannot control the mind without achieving super soul? How do we understand?
Okay. It's a good question. So, it is said that one who has controlled the mind is as good as a person who has attained the super soul. Why? Because when we do any activity in this material world, we are doing it either under the diktats of the inferior energy or the diktats of the superior energy. Right? Whatever we do. So if we follow our mind, which is contaminated, then we are following the diktats of the inferior energy. Because the mind is nothing but the part of the subtle body. It's made of the inferior energy of the Lord. Whereas the super soul is Paramatma himself, which is the superior energy. Right? The Jiva is also superior energy. The Paramatma is also superior. The Paramatma is the source of superior energy. Right? Therefore, if we have stopped obeying the diktats of the conditioned mind, that means it automatically means that we are taking those instructions from the super soul before acting. Because the super soul or the Paramatma is Upadrishta and Anumanta, is the witness as well as the sanctioner of all our activities. So the Paramatma guides us. So therefore, we need to allow the Paramatma inside our heart to win over our conditioned mind. And that's the conversation with the mind. Hey, my dear mind, hang on 1 second. Let's see what Paramatma has to tell. And how will we know what Paramatma wants us to tell? Paramatma speaks to you from within the heart. Yes. Who is the Paramatma for us? Representative? He is our spiritual master. So therefore, before taking any decisions in our life, whether to be in Melbourne or whether to go back to India or wherever, right? We always consult the spiritual master, because our mind will tell us what it wants to hear. Right? So we have to consult the spiritual master, or if we do not have access directly to spiritual master, many times that can happen. For example, in our lives, it's very difficult to access our spiritual master directly. Very rarely can we access him. But he has established a system by which we can access devotees who have imbibed his teachings. And that is what he calls as the counselor system. So in some temples, they have that system. For example, in Bombay, they have this counselor system where everyone can consult their counselor or mentor. Everyone is assigned a mentor. There is nobody who can get initiated or shelter without being part of that system. So similar system has been established by Anirudh Prabhu and Achyuta Mataji here also in Melbourne. Only thing, we don't call it as the counselor system. We call it as the Bhakti Vriksha program. That's all. or youth program. So even in youth program which Nityananda Priya Prabhu conducts, then every devotee is under some senior devotee who is guiding that person. And similarly in our Bhakti Vriksha programs, right? Then people who are attending Bhakti Vriksha program, they are always guided by their Bhakti Vriksha self-servant leader. For example, Akhandadi Prabhu, he is part of the Asitaraya Prabhu's Bhakti Vriksha program. So if there is anything, then he has a access to a senior devotee if he has any problems in his life, like that, or if any decision he has to take and he is on the threshold. Therefore, no, I don't know why I started speaking this. What was your question? Yeah, so this is the while taking decisions, the Paramatma is that these senior devotees who convey the mood of the spiritual master to your table for a practical application in a given situation. So therefore, a devotee who has controlled his mind means I will not just do whatever my mind tells me, whereas I will seek guidance and mold my life by hearing from a person who is more senior than me in Krishna consciousness, who is representing the spiritual master truly. It's not just because somebody is higher to us by age, it doesn't necessarily go by that logic, right? It goes by how correctly that person is representing the mood of the spiritual master. Then such a person you can take guidance from, not necessarily by age. That person may be younger also. For example, as much as we are getting a lot of spiritual help in Melbourne itself, so you don't have to really go outside of Melbourne for most of the things, but sometimes when we go for yatras etc., when we go back to Bombay, because I come from Bombay, so then when we go to the Chowpatty temple, then sometimes we get some guidance from some guidance in certain aspects of life from those devotees. But those devotees are much younger to us in age, but they are more realized. So then we take guidance from them like that. So that is also possible. So there is no such criteria. But the mind should not be left alone to guide us for any decision making like that. Then we are safe. Sorry, someone else had a... Yeah.
Yeah, so
State.
the Prabhu sir, I wanted to make the point that the goal of the living entity should be to accept dictations of the Paramatma, which actually you explained.
Correct. Yeah.
Rather than, so that is how to control, you can control my mind, accepting the dictation of Paramatma.
Correct. Yeah. So, most dangerous situation is what for a devotee? What is the most dangerous situation for a person who is practicing Krishna consciousness?
Listening to the mind.
Pardon?
Listening to the mind.
Listening to the mind, yes, but most dangerous situation in a practical level is one who does not have any spiritual master may be there, but who does not have any immediate devotee who is representing that mood. Because not all spiritual masters will visit all geographies, and even if they visit, how much time can you get from them? Because there are 50 people who want to serve the spiritual master. There are another 100 people who want to meet him personally. Then you are in the queue, and sometimes you get 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, what can you discuss? The problems of life. Correct? Not possible. So therefore, it is advisable for all devotees to be part of some forum or spiritual group where they can directly access a senior devotee for their day-to-day problems. Does it make sense? So any devotee who is languishing in a freelance mode, neither here nor there, they are in danger. So we have to be under the shelter of someone. Someone has to monitor our spiritual life. Otherwise our mind will monitor our spiritual life, which is dangerous. Mind will always give you congratulatory messages. You are doing great. Most of the days you are doing 16 rounds. Fantastic. Right? Or I remember few years back, Vishwatma Prabhu, who was, we were very close. He was my tram mate as well as my godbrother. So this was when I came to Australia first time. There was only one day it happened. That previous day 14 rounds because of some issue, and the next day compensated by doing 2 more rounds. Those days we were chanting 16 rounds. But and I told him that, inadvertently I told him, I did 18 today or something. He said, oh, you're doing 18? No, today. I said, why? He said, yesterday I did 14. And he blasted me in the tram that day. He was my good friend, but he blasted me in the tram, and I'm eternally grateful to him for doing that. He told me, Prabhupada said, minimum 16 rounds per day, not on an average 16 rounds per day. So you do 14 and then you do 16 and then average becomes 16. So he blasted me, and I immediately, never it has happened after that. And then what happened was, because I got that instruction, then I saw another devotee who was consistently doing that. And then I was able to tell that devotee, Prabhuji, I learned, please, it's minimum 16 rounds a day. And this devotee had a habit of doing that for years. And then from that day, this devotee also started. So sometimes we need that relationship with our God brothers. We need relationship with the senior devotees. So somebody will keep us in check. So we have to have relationships. Without relationships with senior devotees, nobody will interfere in our life. If we are always in Vanda, in Gujarati we say Vanda mein, Vanda and Lafada, with senior devotees, then what will happen? They will not instruct us. The worst thing for us is what? You go to someone for guidance and then they tell you, Mataji, you are already doing fantastic, Mataji, Haribol, you are more elevated Mataji than me, and then he walks off. That means he doesn't have any relationship with you. He is just, the relationship is simply Haribol and etiquette. If this happens too often, that means you know that the devotee does not have a relationship such that they can give you 1 or 2 whips, bring you back on track. So we have to keep a relationship with senior devotees such that we have to accept the chastisement which comes to us, which is for our good. Otherwise, everything will be nice. Haribol, how are you? How is the weather? And everything is fine. And then we are not going anywhere in our spiritual life. So that is required. That relationship is required. To take the whip is required. Indian system of education. Give the whip and then problem is solved then and there. Never again in the lifetime. Like that.
Prabhuji, what happens if a person is sick, he is not able to chant then?
If a person is sick, he is not able to chant, then what to do? Then the person, after the person recovers from sickness, has to compensate for the rounds which are lost. Again, it depends on sickness. So you can't say, Prabhu, I have cold and headache, therefore I can't. It depends on that. It depends. Okay. Otherwise, the mind will tell you, your headache is really bad. It's okay. It's okay. No, mind will tell you like that.
The person has a surgery, something like that, he is not able to do it.
After the surgery.
What better way than lying down and hearing? You can lie down and still keep hearing.
You can lie down and hear. But more important than that is what? Chant if you can. Chanting must be done. Chanting is the Yuga Dharma. What you are saying is absolutely true. If you really can't chant, you can't move your limbs, etc., then at least hearing should go on. But that hearing should go on even if you are chanting. So hearing and chanting, everything should go on together. But topmost is what? Chanting. Chanting must be done on that day under any circumstance. Unless there is a very exceptional situation, then okay. So from verses 7 to 9, the symptoms of Yoga Rudha stage are mentioned. Yoga Rudha and Yoga Rurukshu. We saw these 2 stages, right, in the previous classes. Which is the preliminary stage? Yoga Rurukshu is the previous stage. The preliminary stage of Ashtanga Yoga, followed by Yoga Rudha. So the 7 to 9 talks about symptoms of Yoga Rudha stage, where the devotee is completely neutral to all material existence and dualities of the material world. The devotee simply follows the dictation of the Lord, which comes through the spiritual master and the bona fide authorities. And therefore the devotee is unaffected by dualities. So this stage is called as a practical samadhi, where you are constantly under guidance, like that. And by that guidance you are completely neutral to everything. The devotee sees all objects, whether they are pebbles or stone or gold, as one and the same. We know the famous pastime of Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami, one Brahmana had gone to him, right? And was it a Brahmana? No, a thief had gone actually. Yeah, a thief had gone to him And he had come to know that Sanatana Goswami has got a touchstone which can convert things into gold. So when he went to Sanatana Goswami, asked where it is, he said it must be lying near the garbage area. No. So this person was wondering, such a valuable thing lying in the garbage area. That means he must be having something much more valuable than the touchstone. Then he asks Sanatana Goswami, and then Sanatana Goswami gives him the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And then he becomes a devotee like that. So such a person sees everything as there is no value of anything which cannot be used in Krishna consciousness, and if something can be used in Krishna consciousness, then all such objects are of same value. It doesn't matter. So because the value of everything is only based on whether it can be utilized in Krishna's service or not utilized in Krishna's service. There is no other parameter for assessing the value of things. Gold is higher and stone is lesser only from a commercial standpoint, but not from a spiritual standpoint. A deity which is made of gold or a deity which is made of stone is the same from a spiritual point of view. Of course, assuming that the processes of establishing the deity are followed, it doesn't matter what. It's not that if you have a brass deity, then your bhakti is higher than if you have a resin deity. It doesn't matter like that. It all depends upon our consciousness with which we serve the deities. So otherwise, all these have, in terms of commercial value, it has got no value for a devotee from a commercial aspect. So that's what we have to understand. Pebbles, gold and stone don't make no difference to a person who is self-realized. In fact, there was a pastime of Jagannath Das Babaji. Jagannath Das Babaji had to be carried. Who was his servant? Bihari. Bihari used to carry Jagannath Das Babaji in a basket. And someone gave 1 rupee coin to Jagannath Das Babaji. And then Babaji had it in his pocket. And after traveling a long miles like that, then Babaji suddenly told Bihari, let's go back all the way. He said, why? I want to return the 1 rupee coin to the person who is given. And the person was very wealthy. So Bihari was a very true servant. He said, okay. He went all the way back carrying Babaji and then returned. And then the person asked, why are you returning this? Actually just 1 rupee. Babaji mentioned that this 1 rupee has created so much turbulence in my mind. Of course, this is a pastime happening, Jagannath Babaji, but then he is giving us an instruction. It has created so much turbulence. Mind has been so disturbed with this 1 rupee coin. I don't know how you are managing more of such 1 rupee coins which are in your bank account. How your peaceful is. And then he returned the coin like that. So these things don't have much of value. What is of value to a devotee is the things which are used for Krishna consciousness. Of course, it doesn't mean we have to encash everything and put it in the dustbin. We can use our money for devotional activities. Yeah.
Even in Kuresha's pastimes, when they were going through the forest, his wife had a golden bowl.
Correct. Yeah, good.
He told her to throw it. She was afraid of the thieves, scared. Then he said, "What are you having any valuable things?" So he said, "This bowl, the golden bowl." He said, "Throw it away." When they throw it away, they didn't have any.
So, such a self-realized person sees all objects as one and the same. Also, such a self-realized devotee is fully satisfied by jnana and vijnana. So there is not too much quest for jnana and vijnana. Enough of jnana and vijnana, like that. So Prabhupada is cautioning all of us here that we must not be too obsessed with scholarship in devotional life. Yes, it is important to know the philosophy, but philosophy should not become an obsession in our life. At the end of the day, a devotee, even who is illiterate, and Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj was saying the other day, he said that it is not required. We don't need excellence of material elements in bhakti. We don't need to be a great speaker or a great preacher or a great kirtanier. We don't need to be a great anything. When someone asked Burijan Prabhu also, and Burijan Prabhu mentioned, what did he say? He said, don't try to become a great devotee. Just try to become a good devotee. Yeah. So we don't have to do great things in ISKCON. For ISKCON to progress, of course, There are great people who are doing great things. His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj is there. He has done great things for ISKCON. But we don't need to do great things for ISKCON. All we need to do is, even if we are managing our own lives such that people see us as an example in Krishna consciousness, we have preached. Even if you don't open your mouth and speak anything, with our life, the way we live, the way we speak, the way we do our sadhana, even by that, if people are inspired, just seeing us, then that is good enough. So you don't need to do anything outstanding. It's not required. Of course, out of love for Srila Prabhupada, then people take up big projects. For example, Ambarish Prabhu has taken up this big project of building the Vedic planetarium, like that. So out of love and gratitude for Srila Prabhupada, these devotees are empowered to do great things, like that. But we don't really have to do great things. There was one person who was reading the Bhagavad Gita like this. He upside down, he did not even know anything, illiterate person. And he was weeping constantly. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, why you are weeping? He said that I am an illiterate person. I have been asked to read this book, but I don't know how to read this book. But I am just looking at Krishna and weeping. How great he is that he has become, though he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has become the charioteer of his devotee. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually told him, you have understood the Bhagavad Gita. Because that is the sum and substance of Bhagavad Gita. To be able to develop those feelings for Krishna. So all our education, all our degrees, Bhakti Sastri, what is that, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhaktivedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma, rather than giving all these degrees, giving us pride, actually they are meant to increase our love for the Lord. How? By taking more and more shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books. It is only through the Vani of Srila Prabhupada manifesting in these books will our consciousness, the anarthas inside our heart disappear and that love become re-established. So that is the purpose of education, Vedic education. It's unlike material education. So in that sense, it doesn't matter who comes first, who is the topper in Bhakti Vaibhav, or who is having low marks in Bhakti Shastri. It doesn't matter. However, this doesn't mean that we can avoid studying and we can say, Prabhu, Jnana is not important. Therefore, I am not appearing for the exam. Okay. Or it doesn't mean like that. That means we are trying to fool the system. Take advantage of instructions and fool the system. So we have to study Srila Prabhupada's books scrutinizingly for our spiritual welfare. And when we actually do that, incidentally we will find that we are scoring very high marks. Incidentally we will find that. Because we are trying to go deeper and deeper and extract more and more nectar from Srila Prabhupada's purports. So when we write an exam, we are not preparing for an exam in one sense. We are just writing our realization, because we have simply by reading it, we have derived so much from that book. So it's just coming out, that's all. That should be the exam. It's not that, exam must be cramming of, yoga rurukshu, yoga rudha, and you know that in the exam, at least in the first semester, you all didn't get any such questions. That is the whole idea. We will not tell you, okay, fill in the blanks. What is yoga rurukshu, what is yoga rudha? How does it matter what it is? The essential principle is what? To control the mind. So the questions will come based on controlling the mind. There can be a practical situation, a case which is given to you, and say, apply the principles in this situation, how you will control your mind. Then you can, as an answer, you can write yoga rurukshu and yoga rudha as one line. That's all. It's just incidental. But that jnana is not in itself very important. The application of that in our personal lives, practical application, and in our preaching application, that is important. Otherwise, mundane scholarship, even the demons are having. For example, in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto opens with, the 2nd chapter opens with Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu, his brother Hiranyaksha has been killed. We discussed like last time. His brother Hiranyaksha has been killed. And Hiranyakashipu, what does he want? His only goal in life is what now? To kill Krishna. His only goal in life is to kill Krishna. But he sees his wife and everyone else lamenting and crying over his elder brother's death, Hiranyaksha's death. And Hiranyakashipu is speaking beautiful words to them. He is saying, after all, he was not the body and this and that. Life is very temporary. One should never cry for the body. All that he speaks to them, and after that he wants to kill Vishnu. So, mundane scholarship, what to speak of devotees, even asuras or demons or rakshasas can speak very nicely. And we have seen also, even Mayavadi speak very nice philosophy. Even the professional Bhagavatam reciters who charge 10,000 rupees per, or 1 lakh rupees per session of Bhagavad Sapta. For 7 days I charge 3 lakh rupees, like that. Even they are able to speak very nicely. But then, such speech will not go inside our hearts, will not penetrate our hearts, and will not bring about any change like that. In fact, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, anyone who speaks Bhagavatam and charges money is like a prostitute. Yeah, he said it's a prostitute. One who sells the Shastras for money. It is also, there is one verse also which Gaurang Prabhu mentions in the Saints and Swindlers. I forgot that verse. Veda Vihina cha patanti shastra vihina cha purana pataha purana vihina krishino bhavanti brashtas tatho bhagavata bhavanti, which means that he is saying that any person who has been Veda Vihina cha patanti shastra, anyone who has failed to study the Vedas, who cannot understand, he starts reading the Puranas. Right? Veda Vihina Chapatanti Shastra. He starts reading the Shastra. Shastra Vihina Cha Purana Pataha. Other Vedas, if you don't understand, you read Upanishads. If you don't understand Upanishads, you come down to Puranas. Purana Vihina Krishino Bhavanti. If you can't understand Puranas also, then they will take to agriculture. Right? And Brashtas Tato Bhagavata Bhavanti. Even if they fail in agriculture also, then what they will do? They will read the main stories from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then they will become professional Bhagavatam reciters. So you can imagine how much fallen condition that is. So this is the very fallen condition. So therefore, for a devotee, in fact initially also I remember in my, when I was new in Krishna Consciousness, we were in Toronto, Canada. So at that time, it was 2003. I had become serious. We were chanting 16 rounds, and Gopal Krishna Maharaj had just given us instructions, chant 16 rounds like that, and then we were chanting 16 rounds. But what used to happen, I used to come to, in the ISKCON Bhagavatam class, pretty serious, one must control one's mind, follow 4 regulative principles. So I was getting little bit, I heard this yesterday. So someone told me, there is another Bhagavatam going on outside in that temple. Another temple is there, Hindu temple. What a Bhagavatam class! Tears will come out from your eyes. So I said, okay, come, let's go. We went there, and then that person, that Bhagavatam reciter, he had got musicians and all with them. And he was singing, Radhe Radhe Japa Karo, Krishna Naam Ras Biya Karo. He was singing like that. And then everyone was dancing like that. People were whistling, dancing, everything. And I was also enjoying there. Then I came out and I told one senior devotee, and he was very kind to me. He didn't tell me, you fool. He didn't tell me that. He was very polite to me. I said, his name was Rupanuga Prabhu. He was my mentor in Toronto. I told Rupanuga Prabhu, what a Bhagavatam class, first class. Everyone was crying and dancing like anything. Beautiful. Oh, is it? Very nice. Like that he said. You continue coming for Bhagavatam class in Hare Krishna, in our temple. He just told me that. You continue coming like that. He didn't criticize me, but he said, you continue, you come, you here also, like that he said. And then later on I realized that it was only about crying tears, dancing and enjoying the katha, and then buying cassettes at the end of the day. How many cassette sales have happened like that? But nobody was there with a bead bag. Nobody started chanting even after the 7 days of Bhagavad Sapta. How can this happen? How can 7 days of Srimad Bhagavatam not even touch upon the fact that one needs to chant in Kali Yuga? Right? So therefore, we have to be very careful. So the excellence in elements is not as important as integrity of the message which is being given. In fact, in Madhurya Kadambini also, it is mentioned that as you go to higher and higher stages, Madhurya Kadambini talks about the various stages in bhakti. Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, then Nishtha, then Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava and Prema. It is mentioned that when one crosses Nishtha and one gets taste in Krishna consciousness, Ruchi has also come, and then Asakti, attachment has also come, the symptom of that asakti is mentioned. When one becomes attached to Krishna consciousness, then the excellence of elements has got no place in Krishna consciousness. Which means you will attend Bhagavatam class regardless of who is giving Bhagavatam class. Not that you will open the door slightly and see who is giving class. Oh, I'll maybe chant in the courtyard today. No, not like that. Because Krishna Katha will be very attractive regardless of who gives. It's not that we will only come to hear when Madhav Prabhu and Gauravani are doing kirtan. We can hear kirtan. That kirtan, even when someone is singing who's tone deaf, there is no sur, there is no tal. Still that Hare Krishna Mahamantra is attracting us. So there is no excellence of elements here. The prasadam, even if there is no salt, even if there is no sugar in porridge, one will ask for more porridge and drink. Not like me, who has stopped taking porridge in the temple. Because nowadays the Matajis are not putting sugar in that porridge. I have been one of the impacted parties. Anyone hearing? I used to like porridge, I can't eat porridge, there is no sugar. Right?
You have company problem.
What is that?
You have company.
You have company. You are also stopped taking porridge. Okay. So this is called as a low stage in bhakti. At least for me. Because now my attachment to prasadam is dependent on the taste of prasadam, on the excellence with which it has been prepared. Like that. So these are examples. So when we go higher and higher, it doesn't matter. Gulab jamun and
Ice cream.
no, not ice cream. Broccoli soup is the same. Like that. So Srila Prabhupada implies that while jnana and vairagya is important, knowledge and renunciation is important, but then that jnana should lead to vijnana. Jnana means transcendental knowledge. Vijnana means applied knowledge, realized knowledge. Only by application of knowledge will one get realization in bhakti. So what is the difference between jnana and vijnana? For example, jnana means that we know what are the things to be avoided, right? And what happens if we don't avoid them. And vijnana means what? Actually avoiding them. Otherwise we can give hundreds of classes on how to avoid certain things and not be avoiding in our own lives, right? It's easy to say that one should eat only prasadam in a class and then go and eat from halwai, dugdalai, right? Or go and eat from some hotel, like that. So there has to be an integrity between what we learn and what we do in our lives. So that is very important. So that is vijnana. By doing that, then we will get realizations. Otherwise we will not get realization. Then we can speak nicely, but neither we will benefit by that nor others will benefit. When we maximum benefit to the audience comes when the speaker is actually following that which he is speaking. That is when maximum benefit comes to the people who we preach to. Right? If we are not following something ourselves, then no matter how eloquently we have spoken, it still does not change. Why? Because Srila Prabhupada said purity is the force. Without purity, it is very difficult to effect a change in other people's consciousness. So we have to constantly keep chatting with our mind. Dear mind, I am still not there. Please help me become pure. Because the mind will always say that we are pure. No, go ahead. You are very qualified to say things. But no, have that conversation. So jnana and vijnana. And a person who has jnana, who has vairagya, and who also has vijnana, such a person sees all people equally. The most advanced stage. So that is what 7 to 9. Essence is that. Let's go to 10. A transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind and self in relation with the Supreme. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Smriti Mataji, you want to read? Oh, you have a book or no?
Krishna is realized in different ways as Brahman. Paramatma and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna consciousness means concisely to be always engaged in the transcendental level service of the Lord. But those who are attached to the impersonal Brahman or the localized super soul are also partially Krishna conscious. Because impersonal Brahman,
not Brahman, Brahman.
Sorry, impersonal Brahman is a spiritual ray of Krishna, and super soul is the all-pervading partial expansion of Krishna. Thus, the impersonalist and the meditator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. A directly Krishna conscious person is the topmost transcendentalist because such a devotee knows what is meant by Brahman and Paramatma. His knowledge of the absolute truth is perfect, whereas the impersonalist and the meditative yogi are imperfectly Krishna conscious. Nevertheless, all these are instructed herewith to be constantly engaged in their particular pursuits so that they may come to the highest perfection sooner or later. The first business of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. One should always think of Krishna and not forget him even for a while. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme is called samadhi or trance. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external objects. He should be very careful to accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions that affect his realization. And in perfect determination, he should not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness. All these perfections and precautions are perfectly executed when one is directly in Krishna consciousness, because direct Krishna consciousness means self-abnegation, whereas there is very little chance for material possessiveness. Srila Rupa Goswami characterizes Krishna consciousness in this way. Anasaktasya visayan
Yathartham upayunjatah.
Nirbandha Krishna sambandhe.
You can go to the English directly.
When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge or of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. The Krishna conscious person well knows that everything belongs to Krishna, and thus he is always free from feelings of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Krishna consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. He is always aloof from material things because he is always transcendental, and he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness is a perfect Lord.
So what are the points here? Why? This can be a question in the exam. Yeah? I promised you I'll make it easier. Explain why a person in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi.
He's perfect yogi because he understands what true renunciation means. True renunciation for a Sangha yogi means going into a secluded place in the forest and all that is good. But for Krishna, for devotee, we don't go into the forest and try to find happiness for ourselves. We use everything material in order to serve the spiritual. Please,
okay. So what is the why is renunciation not much relevant for a devotee in that sense?
Because we don't own it in the first place.
Correct. You can only renounce that which you own. A devotee knows Isavashyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita magrida kashyasvadana. Everything animate or inanimate is owned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only if I own something can I renounce that. When I don't own anything, where is the question of renouncing? So this is the mood of a devotee. So a devotee understands that everything is the property of the Lord. Therefore, but the ordinary yogi need not necessarily have that knowledge. Right? So there is nothing for us to renounce in that sense. So, but still, renunciation for a devotee is for the pleasure of Krishna. So renunciation is not a milestone in a path to a higher yogic stage. Does it make sense? For a devotee. For a devotee, right from day one, starts with renunciation and it always remains like that. All for the pleasure of Krishna. One should accept only one's quota, knowing very well to whom things belong to. Like that. This is a translation from Isopanisad. Okay, what else? Upanaga Prabhu.
Keeps association poor. He keeps association poor.
Keep association.
He keeps his association pure state.
Pure stage.
It's only with Krishna consciousness.
Very good, yeah, that's a very good point, yes. So that was the point I was looking at. Yeah, very good. Yeah. So, Srila Prabhupada is talking about going to Lord Krishna is talking about seclusion, right? Here. Where is it mentioned? Aloofness. Somewhere it's mentioned right here. What is written there? He is all aloof from material things, yeah. And he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Krishna consciousness. That's a very good point. So Srila Prabhupada is talking about the power of association here.
But how do we understand that? From one side, we just said we have to go out and preach and then have nothing to do. Is it just connect to the people on the platform of soul, or realize that they're also soul?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, even in our Milpark program today, I was saying Krishna consciousness is like a kabaddi game. In a kabaddi game, what happens? Kabaddi is an Indian game, so you may not relate to it, but we can offline we will explain to you what kabaddi. Prabhupada gives this example very often. Kabaddi means there are some players on this side, and then there's a line, and the opponents are on the other side. So one person from this side crosses the line and says kabaddi, 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 kabaddi. He has to keep on saying like that, and then he has to go and touch someone on the opposite side. And if he touches someone and comes back to his line, then that person is out. Okay. Now what happens is when the person goes there, the opponents are also trying to pull him into their side, in which case this person is out. Okay. So Prabhupada said devotees must be like expert kabaddi players. We must know how to enter the camp of non-devotees to bring them into our camp. Otherwise we'll go there and we'll become part of their camp. That is the problem. So after all, so many years, even I haven't watched television. It was so nice in your house, like that. Then finished. Right? Instead of throwing their television set out, then we have also enjoyed there. So therefore, we have to go there, play, and then come back. Sometimes you may also have to sit there and watch the television without being touched. But it's a very risky game. So one must understand where one is and then play that game. Otherwise there is a problem. It happens sometimes. You have to go to people's houses and then talk so many things like that. In office it happens. If you have to preach to your colleagues, we are doing this lunchtime Bhagavatam. So initially when the person comes, then we will speak everything else. So what's happening? One day I just spent time with one new person was there. So we just talked about how much India scored against Australia, in the recent test match, and how the Indian team, what improvements have to be, enabled in the team. How does it matter to us? We don't care, isn't it? Because the soul is neither Indian nor Australian. How does it matter, right? But still we have to speak something. So once you speak, then after that it doesn't mean that you go on speaking that. Then after some time, then incidentally, come to this topic. Slowly, somehow we have to come. So we can talk about how Australia lost, how bad Australians must have felt, but how if one knows that one is not Australian, then it is very easy for the Australian, and how Bhagavad Gita, then slowly divert. So very expertly you have to come to your topic at the end of the day. So and by practice, then we will all learn how to do that. But initially we have to go. We have to bring people through some medium or the other into this Krishna Conscious Movement. Because in Krishna Conscious Movement we have everything. We have philosophy, we have music, we have prasadam. So whatever aptitudes people have, channel them through that. So in verse 10, now this is a new section which is there from verse 10 to 17. In the previous stage, Lord Krishna described the perfectional stage of yoga, where he is talking about stones, pebbles, etc. being the same. And now Lord Krishna is actually explaining the procedure of how to attain that perfectional stage. Between verses 10 to 17 is explaining the procedure of Ashtanga Yoga. So therefore, he describes the practices of Ashtanga Yoga. Initially he describes first in the perfected stage and then in the beginning stage. So he is describing in a sequence like that. Yoga practice, like any other science, the Lord is saying that yoga practice, just like any other science, entails that one follow a process that bears result only if applied correctly. Like any process, even Bhakti Yoga, the process has to be applied correctly to take maximum juice from the process, to get maximum benefit of the process. It has to be followed correctly. Now, the theme of these sections is that in other yogic processes, the level of correctness with which you have to follow the process is very high. Only in Bhakti, we have, even if you are not following, still you will follow eventually. It doesn't mean that you need not follow, still you will attain. It's not like that. But only in Bhakti, there are rooms for, there is a lot of relaxations in the process of Bhakti Yoga, which is not there in the process of Ashtanga Yoga. We will see all those things. So this verse, what we saw now, it talks about how to practice in the Yoga Rudha stage. So the first quality is what? One must be Nirashi. Nirashi means what? There is no asha. Yeah, no more material desires or no possessiveness. To succeed in yoga, especially in Ashtanga Yoga, there must be no attachments, no possessiveness about anything, no material desires. If this was the criteria laid down for Bhakti Yoga, how many of us will be in this room? Very few. I wouldn't be here at least. Okay. So first is one must be nirashi. The second is constant pursuit must be there, which is called as yunjita satatam. It's mentioned in the verse also. Constant pursuit. And the third is being ekaki and being rahasi. Ekaki means what? Being in seclusion, confidential. Life must be confidential, secluded and aloof. Ekaki and rahasi, like that. In fact, Gurujan Prabhu writes in Surrender to Me that one must, if you have to actually practice these kind of yogas, you must not be even accompanied by your disciples. And because disciples will keep disturbing and asking doubts there. Or their own problems, right? You are sitting on a mat and then you just put dhyan and then, Guru Maharaj, can I take a minute? There are 4 people who have come to meet you. You can imagine, you will never be able to get out. From that, you will never be able to make yourself sit on that pusa mat for more than 10 minutes. Some appointments will be there, right? So therefore, it is very difficult to practice this Ashtanga Yoga. It requires a lot of these things. Whereas, if you see Srila Prabhupada, even at the time of Srila Prabhupada's departure, if you see the video, is Srila Prabhupada aloof? Actually, he is surrounded by his disciples. And Prabhupada is dictating over the dictaphone. Srimad Bhagavatam purport, Prabhupada is dictating. Have you seen Srila Prabhupada's disappearance video? Srila Prabhupada is like a skeleton. His body is skeleton. Literally nothing. There is no flesh in the body. Prabhupada is lying like this. And then he is struggling. He is going to leave. He is struggling in the sense, from the material point of view. So Srila Prabhupada, it was even difficult for him to do his daily, excretory activities like that. Everything was a problem. The doctor said that actually no ordinary person would survive in this material condition. But Srila Prabhupada, in that situation, what he was doing? His life air, people could see he was slowly leaving. The life air was leaving. And what Prabhupada was dictating Srimad Bhagavatam purports, because he wanted to give maximum of these books to us, which we are lazy to read. Right? We think it is very hard. But Srila Prabhupada wrote all these books for us. Till his last breath, he dictated. And then disciples were surrounding. Now you contrast this to the mode of the Ashtanga Yogi, who is going and out. He doesn't want anyone around him. So there is a stark difference. What to speak, even in Bhakti, there are 2 types of saints. What are the 2 types of saints? Vajananandi and Goshti Anandi saints. If you go to Vrindavan, you will find both of these kind of saints. Goshti Anandi we all know. ISKCON is what? ISKCON is Goshti Anandi. Whereas if you go to Vrindavan, you will find various Babajis also, who are living in seclusion, inside the Seva Kunj or somewhere, or some forest in Vrindavan. They will be sitting and doing their own bhajan, nirjan bhajan, like that. They have nothing to do with the outside world. They may come outside only for the purposes of Madhukari. That's all. And then they will go and they are also glorious. Bhajananandi saints are also glorious. However, the mood of Srila Prabhupada and our disciplic succession, starting from Rupa Goswami, was not that of a Bhajananandi. Therefore, in ISKCON, you don't have no Babaji Vesh, which is given in ISKCON. Babaji Vesh is not given. In ISKCON it is sannyas, but not Babaji Vesh. Right? Because Babaji Vesh means Bhajananandi saint. We are in the mood of Goshti Anandis. Our goal is what? Yara deke tare kaha Krishna Upadesh. Amara Agya Guru Hana Tara Desh. Our whole purpose of our life is to spread this message. So we are expected to spread the message of Krishna consciousness till our last breath. And that should be the only goal of our life. We may go for this job, that job, we may work in a bank, we may work in IT, we may work in finance, we may work in anything. How does it matter? Our goal is what? Only one. To spread Krishna Bhakti. It is incidental that we go to office. It is incidental we maintain our family. Everything is incidental. But our goal is to fulfill the desire of Srila Prabhupada. So whatever activities we do in a day will also be towards that goal. Right? Even if we are learning musical instruments, for example, the goal is not to become a tansen and sit in front of 50,000 audience and just to receive their applause and how nice you have sung. The goal for us is what? When we learn a musical instrument, to be very good, so that when we sing, then the Bhakti Vriksha members are attracted by the power of Kirtan. Because the people who come for our program, they are not on the platform of Ruchi and Asatti. No, excellence of element is not required. They will say, oh, the fellow doesn't even know how to sing Kirtan properly, I am not going for the program. Or if we are not able to answer their questions immediately, then they lose trust in the speaker. You can say once or twice, I'll get back to you. You can't keep on saying, any questions? Question number 1. I'll get back to you on that next week. How does that sound? So therefore we have to develop excellence in reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Answers must flow. So we must work very hard in reading, because Prabhupada has given answers to everything that we need to know. There is nothing that Prabhupada has left. Everything is there. So constantly reading, constantly hearing, we have to become experts in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness to be able to do our service to Srila Prabhupada. So that is the importance. Why Jnana is important for all of us is because we are coming into the Goshti Anandi mood. For a Bhajan Anandi it doesn't matter. Right? At the end of the day, as long as attentive chanting, that one thing is required. For a Bhajan Anandi saint, there's only one thing which is there. What is that? Harinam. That's all. Chant Harinam attentively, that's all. Go into the forest and then he will deliver himself. Okay, Radharani will come, gone, like that. Okay, but for us, our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada is what? In following in the footsteps of the Acharyas. Hare Nama Anukirtanam. We do Kirtan as the Acharyas have done. Our Acharyas have always been Goshti Anandis, preaching. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur was serving the British government, right? He was in a very high position, but still he was preaching. So many books he has written, so many people he changed, lives he changed, all over India, like that, by the power of his preaching. So as a Grihastha, especially this program, mostly it is householders, it's very important that this should be the goal of our life. Nothing else should be the goal of our life. To use our wealth, to use our strengths, our assets in preaching Krishna consciousness and spreading Krishna consciousness. Nothing else is the goal of our life. And living in a secluded place. For the devotees, what is that secluded place? Holy Dham. And where is the Holy Dham? Here. Very good. I thought somebody will say Vrindavan. This is the Holy Dham. Srila Prabhupada entered this temple and said, this temple is Vrindavan, he said. Prabhupada himself came to this temple. He said, this is Vrindavan, he said. This temple. Tell me, maximum progress where it has happened? Inside these 4 walls? At least for me it has happened within these 4 walls. Maximum progress in Krishna consciousness. You agree, Janeshwar Prabhu? We have been attending Keshav Prabhu's Bhagavatam class since so many years now. Since 8 years. Maximum progress within these 4 walls. It's not that we go to Vrindavan and attain some sudden realization and then we have to, we are applying. It's not like that. Whatever we hear here, that builds our right consciousness to go to Vrindavan. So these 4 walls are more important than just visiting any Holy Dham. Otherwise, anybody can visit Holy Dham. Even the non-devotees are visiting. Right? Even the Bollywood stars are visiting Vrindavan. How does it matter? Even the cows and asses are visiting. Just going, taking bath, and clicking photographs outside 5 temples, putting on Facebook. That is not the way to do a Vrindavan Yatra. First we have to get into the mood of going into the holy dham, and then when we go there, we have to hear from the advanced souls. And of course, if we can do some service there, that's great. Like that. But when we come back, carry the mood of the holy dham and again give it to the whole world. So that is our mood, Goshti Anandi. So for us, that secluded living means what? As Rupanuga Prabhu pointed out, secluded living means avoiding association of non-devotees and developing attachment to devotees. Otherwise, we will not progress in spiritual life. We will not progress in spiritual life. We will not progress in spiritual life. Attachment to non-devotees must be cut. It must be cut. Asat sang tyag e Vaishnavachar. Non-devotees will have a very bad influence and they will never allow us to progress in our Krishna consciousness. We will spend years and years coming, but we will not go anywhere. So we have to become deeper and deeper, and we should restrict, completely avoid. Initial days, it's very good to totally cut off, and when we have become little bit strong, then we again start opening up those relationships. This time why? For the purpose of pulling them. But till we are in that stage, in the vulnerable stage, then it must be completely cut off. It doesn't mean that if our friend comes, you say, I'm not looking at you. It's not like that. He'll say, what kind of behavior is this? No? We are polite and external. The relationship is on the platform of etiquettes. That's all. Oh, how are you? How's your kid? Oh, what a fantastic jacket. Oh, fantastic. That's all. Where, I bought it from Maya's. Excellent. Maya's is such a wonderful shop. Okay, see you sometime. Like that. No? Yeah, I think I should also go to Maya's like that. And then you come to temple after that. So just keep it at such a level so that it doesn't agitate the minds of these people. Otherwise they can create trouble sometimes. Even when we go, we all face challenges when we go back to India. When you go with dhoti and kurta, our relatives are thinking, what happened to this fellow? Maybe he didn't succeed in his professional career or something. Right? Otherwise what happens when you go from abroad? What are you supposed to wear?
Suit.
Yeah, you're supposed to wear something, written Australia or Toronto, like that. And then when you go from the flight aircraft, then people are looking, this fellow has come from US or somewhere, Japan, like that. But when we go in dhoti and kurta, they'll say, what happened to this fellow here? Looks like he didn't do well there. So we don't bewilder the people. Even when we go to our relative's house, then we don't bewilder them. You don't go to a relative and say, where's your altar? What altar? Right? Or you don't go and say, go straight to the altar and then pay your obeisances. And then your relatives are thinking, what happened to this fellow? This is the living room. Why don't you sit on the sofa there like that? So you have to be very careful. We have to be normal. But when they serve us cooked food, what do you say? Oh, just today was my fasting day. Just today only, Or you inform them in advance only. I want to come to your house. I so much miss the dosas which you make. But unfortunately, today is fasting day for me. And I can't come on any other day. But I want to meet you. I want to meet you. How can I go without meeting you? Speak nice words. But don't eat cooked food. Know why you are going. Speak nicely. Take big gifts if you want. Take nice gifts so that everything is very happy. But don't compromise your Krishna consciousness when you go there. Maximum. No. You have to eat something. Okay. In my childhood you used to give me watermelons. Can you give that? And then, okay. Just take some watermelons and then just mentally offer it and eat and come. So everything seems as if everything is very normal. But still, you have come out without compromising your Krishna consciousness, and more importantly, you have maintained or enhanced your relationship with that person. Actually, it's best if you can expertly avoid getting caught into their trap and also improve your relationship with them by speaking. Who doesn't like nice words here? Right? Everyone likes glorification. So glorify. But we have to become expert at this when dealing with non-devotees. Otherwise, if we go there, then finished. If you start, I told her that earlier when Mataji was chanting 16 rounds, went and brother gave onion uttapam. And on top, she said, no, I am devotee now. I have been told in Australia, Melbourne, not to take onion and garlic. my dear sister, your brother has made with so much love. Don't you remember in a childhood I used to make onion uttappa, you used to so much like. From the airport, when you came, I knew I had prepared this onion uttappa and I wanted to see my sister eating this. Oh, my dear brother, okay, give. For your sake, then how can I say no to my dear brother, loved one? And then ate onion uttappa, and by coming to Melbourne, how many rounds she was chanting? 0. Then what happened? No? And then stopped coming to the temple. Took house somewhere far away from the temple. That is how your devotional life will get finished. Slowly it gets finished. So you have to be very careful. Asat Sang Tyag. Only devotee association. Aloof, secluded. Otherwise a yogi will not be successful. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusa grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. It's a very easy process, sounds like. No? Ashtanga yoga, anyone wants to do? You should go to a secluded place. The first step is what? Leave your home. Okay, go to secluded place and should lay kusa grass on the ground and then cover that kusa grass with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses and activities and fixing the mind on one point. So, Lord Krishna is describing the criteria that is required to succeed in Ashtanga Yoga. First step is to leave home. Then one has to sit in a kusa mat. And then one has to have a deer skin on top of that. Why deer skin? Yeah, because deer skin keeps away reptiles. That is why. It has got some chemical effects. Purijan Prabhu writes in surrendering unto me. So he writes that deer skin keeps away reptiles. That is why. Reptiles and snakes. So that's why deer skin is important. And he also mentions that there are so many things that one has to follow very particularly in Ashtanga Yoga. One must have one's own asana. It cannot be a shared model. I'll sit from 9 to 5, I'll sit here. Then from 2 to 3 you sit. It doesn't work like that. One must have one's own asana. Like that. Because asanas, kamandalu means what? That pot which they carry, the sages carry, kamandalu, asana and cloth cannot be shared. You cannot say, Prabhu, can I have your dhoti for one day? I have forgotten. Like that. Or I spilled something. In Bhakti Yoga, all that is acceptable. I lent my dhoti to someone last week. It has not come back till now. I don't know what's happening. So in Bhakti it's acceptable. Ashtanga Yoga you can't borrow. Like that. You have to have your own vastra. Like that. Okay? The place must be sanctified. The place must be sanctified. Whereas in Bhakti, you now contrast it. What does Mahaprabhu say? Tatrarpita niyamita smaranena kalaha. It doesn't matter anything. There are no rules, hard and fast rules for chanting the holy names of the Lord. There is no time, place or circumstance. And here what? The place must be sanctified. Like that. The sitting place cannot be changed. You cannot say, now I am fed up with this place. No, can I go there? No? Like, okay. But whereas in Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir, you can sometimes sit facing Prabhupada for chanting. Sometimes you say, oh, no, I'll face that side and chant. No, I look at that picture and chant. All that facility is there. And for, you can sit down or you can walk and chant. And if you're still fed up, you can go outside to the courtyard and chant. Like that. In fact, I saw one person chanting on one bench in the road today. Morning when I was coming, The devotee was sitting in a bench outside Bhakta Bhavan and chanting. I don't know who that person was, but I could see his back. So there is no rule and regulation. So it's very easy. Bhakti Yoga is very easy. Like that. Then, in these verses, in 11 and 12, Srila Prabhupada also refutes the so-called yoga which is being done in big cities. Because in big cities, the external circumstances which even if they provide, they are not conducive to yoga. His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Swami Maharaj was recently mentioning in one of the seminars that once he attended, even after becoming devotee, he just went to see what's happening in one of the meditation centers. So he said that the meditation center was huge meditation center. And what happened? They said that you come here, it will be peaceful. So he entered that, and when he entered, it was pitch dark. Nobody could see what's going on. He said somehow or the other, they managed to walk without stepping on anyone, and they couldn't see anything. And then wherever they got a place, they sat down. After some time, he could hear some noises, slowly, like that. And then after some time, that noise became more and more and more. They were asked to stare at one light which was in the center, coming from some blue light. They were all supposed to just sit and stare. And after some time, the noises started increasing, till it was like a roar of snoring in the room. Okay? So this is what happens in so-called meditation arranged in the modern cities. Nice temperature control, everything is first class. What will come? And after that, if someone comes out of the meditation center, how will he feel? Good. How was it made? Good. What did you do? First class relaxation. Like that. So people, especially, they have this notion that yoga and relaxation go hand in hand. Yoga is meant for relaxation, but yoga actually means connecting with the Supreme, not relaxation. Right? In fact, when you connect with the Supreme, your anxieties will go down, and then your mind will be relaxed. That's a benefit. But that is not the goal of yoga. So we have to be very clear. So Srila Prabhupada is refuting, the yoga, which is not refuting actually. He's, in one sense you can say, Prabhupada is commenting that yoga, which is so-called yoga in big cities, is all hogwash. It doesn't lead us anywhere. Because people in Kali Yuga are manda sumanda matayo. People are always disturbed, lazy, quarrelsome and misguided in Kali Yuga. And this goes against the principles of Ashtanga Yoga. To go into the higher realms of Ashtanga Yoga, one's mind must be very calm. But to chant, does your mind need to be calm? No. In fact, chanting will calm the mind. So there are no rules and regulations. Anyone can chant. Like that. Therefore, in Kali Yuga, the practice of chanting is given. Therefore, Ashtanga Yoga is not to be practiced in Kali Yuga, where we don't have a stable mind. Like that. One should hold, this is very interesting, one should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line. Mother, you don't have a Bhagavad Gita? Can you share? Yeah. So you can read from there. One should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line. Okay? And stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Okay. Someone who can read very fast. Who can read very fast? Yes, Mahesh. Can you read that very fast? It's a very important purport. Let's read this.
The goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated with the heart.
Oh, no, not so fast. Okay. Sorry. Medium speed.
The goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated within the heart of every living being as Paramatma, the four-handed Vishnu form. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see the localized form of Vishnu and not for any other purpose. The localized Vishnu Murti is the plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and the Vishnu Murti situated in one's heart is the object of yoga practice. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere and attend a so-called yoga class and thus become a yogi. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification of which sex life is the chief. In the rules of celibacy written by the great sage Yajnavalkya, it is said, the vow of brahmacharya is meant to help one completely abstain from sex indulgence in work, words and mind at all times, under all circumstances and in all places. No one can perform correct yoga practice through sex indulgence. Brahmacharya is taught, therefore, from childhood when one has no knowledge of sex life. Children at the age of 5 are sent to the Gurukula or the place of the spiritual master, and the master trains the young boys in the strict discipline of becoming brahmacharis. Without such practice, no one can make advancement in any yoga, whether it be jnana, jnana or bhakti. One who, however, follows the rules and regulations of married life, having a sexual relationship only with his wife, and that also under regulation, is also called a brahmachari. Such a restrained householder brahmachari may be accepted in the Bhakti school, but the Jnana and the Dhyana school do not even admit householder brahmacharis. They require complete abstinence without compromise. In the Bhakti school, a householder brahmachari is allowed to control sex life because the cult of Bhakti Yoga is so powerful that one automatically loses sexual attraction being engaged in the superior service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, verse 2.59, it is said, whereas others are forced to restrain themselves from sense gratification, a devotee of the Lord automatically refrains because of superior taste. Other than the devotee, no one has any information of that superior taste. Vigartha B. One cannot be fearless unless one is in Krishna consciousness. Okay. Krishna consciousness. A conditioned soul is fearful due to his perverted memory, his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. The Bhagavatam 11.2.37 says, Krishna consciousness is the only basis for fearlessness. Therefore, perfect practice is possible for a person who is Krishna conscious. And since the ultimate goal of yoga practice is to see the Lord within, a Krishna conscious person is already the best of all yogis. The principles of the yoga system mentioned herein are different from those of the popular so-called yoga societies.
It's a very heavy purport Prabhupada is writing. What are the points here? Yeah. In which yoga? No, in all yoga. I knew that answer will come. So not only in Ashtanga Yoga, one has to restrain one's senses in all types of yoga. However, yes, the point is right, what Mahesh Prabhu is saying. In Ashtanga Yoga, there is absolutely no relaxation. There is no room for even accidents. No way. And when we put that, just imagine, you are starting a new program. You are saying, all of you who are now coming to Krishna consciousness must abstain. Both the partners will not, even go near one another. Like that. How many of you think will come to Krishna consciousness? Nobody will come. Nobody will come. In Kali Yuga, nobody will come. It's not possible, right? Very, very difficult to do this. What to speak of new people? Even practicing devotees also. This is one big challenge. This big challenge. Very difficult. When the fire and what is that called as? Cotton are kept in the same place, it's a very dangerous situation like that. So, Srila Prabhupada is trying to highlight here that Ashtanga Yoga can be simply ruled out at least for the one thing. It is not practical in Kali Yuga. When the mind is disturbed, when still most householders struggle to follow this principle. Like that. So Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here that for a householder in Bhakti Yoga, there are relaxations in this matter. But it must be regulated. Prabhupada says it must be regulated, not frivolous. It must be regulated. And always with one partner, which is the wife. Right? And for the wife, it is the husband. Like that. So that regulation is, that relaxation Bhakti Yoga gives, which Ashtanga Yoga does not give. So that itself rules out Ashtanga Yoga. Go to a secluded place, sit, no sex desire. Once you attain all that, then you can go and do Ashtanga Yoga. Not possible in Kali Yoga. In any yoga it was not possible. Even in earlier yogas, we see that attraction is always there. In fact, in some of the pastimes it is mentioned even Brahma gets attracted. Even Lord Shiva was attracted to the Mohini Murti form of Mahavishnu. So where are we then? Right? So this is a very tall order. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga is the safest yoga. Why? Because Bhakti Yoga does not put abstinence from sex life as an entry criteria. Does it make sense or no? Yeah. It does not put abstinence from sex life as an entry criteria for that yoga. Whereas Bhakti Yoga accepts anyone and everyone, however fallen they are, in such a way that the process itself, by giving a higher taste, param drishtva nivartante, then the soul will gradually lose the lower tastes. It is mentioned that for a grihastha, deity worship is very important. The whole idea around deity worship, the maximum benefit of deity worship will be in terms of controlling one's sex desire. The whole deity worship, the maximum benefit is derived out of deity worship on this particular aspect of our life. So the grihastha couple, they have deities at home and then they serve the deities, and once one gets Brahman Diksha, then one can come to the temple and take up deity services. As one performs these services more and more and more, then one will definitely find that the desires are reducing. And chanting of course, most powerful method. Chanting and deity worship. So the Pancharatrika Vidhi and the Bhagavad Dharma, the two tracks on which our train is running, both these will automatically lead to that goal if practiced seriously. Like that. The posture is also very important. But then one thing, Prabhupada also writes that in any yoga, one has to have regulation in terms of sex life. Otherwise, in any yoga, one will fail. Even in Bhakti Yoga, you cannot say, oh, there is relaxation, so no, one can just go on and on indulging in it. So then one will not, then it will slow down the progress of the devotee on the path back to Godhead. In fact, in Servant of Servant book, which I am reading currently, Srila Prabhupada, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who has written this book, Tamal Krishna Maharaj talks about that moment when he was contemplating sannyas, and Prabhupada called him. He said, Tamala, what have you decided? Like that. Brahmachari or sannyas? And Prabhupada said, sannyas is better. Fast process. And safe process. For him, he said safe process. Because Prabhupada could already see a Goswami in Tamal Krishna Maharaj. But when we cultivate devotees, then we don't simply say, you must take to Brahmacharya. It is a safe process. We have to. It's a case by case. One guideline which Govind Prabhu once mentioned, my godbrother, he was once mentioning in one lecture. He says, the moment a person walks to you and asks, Prabhuji, I'm a bit confused. Should I take Brahmachari or should I take Grihastha? What is the immediate answer? Yes. Take Grihastha. Because a person who is wanting to be Brahmachari will never have this question in the first place. Right? The fact that he is asking a question guide him towards Grihasthashram. And it is glorious. There have been cases even in many temples where, even in our temple there have been cases where person who was very nicely practicing Brahmachari has now very laudably accepted Grihasthashram and married a devotee, and both husband and wife are serving very nicely. So Grihasthashram is a perfectly acceptable ashram in Kali Yuga. In any yoga it was. In Kali Yuga also is a very perfectly acceptable ashram. However, Grihastha ashram, because the cotton and the fire are together, then Grihastha life is always fraught with that risk, because there is a choice that Grihastha life offers. Brahmachari ashram doesn't offer that choice. It's not there. But Grihastha life offers a choice, and in that choice lies the danger of Grihastha ashram. So therefore, the mind should be packed in Krishna conscious activities. The day must be packed in Krishna conscious activities, so that by the time we retire for the night, then we are exhausted, and next day morning Mangalarati. Okay, so if we pack our day with such a regimen, then one can easily surmount. It doesn't mean that you don't take rest and all. I'm not meaning that. But I'm saying that the mind must be engaged. So constantly we must keep on increasing our services. Somehow we must look at how can I do more? How can I take up more? The moment the mind is idle, that is the most vulnerable point when the mind drags one towards sex life. So that idle moments we must reduce by involving in Krishna conscious activities. That is karma yoga. By the medium of activity, then we do yoga. Like that. There are many commonalities between Ashtanga yoga and Bhakti yoga. One commonality is this sex principle. It must be avoided in any yoga. The other is the posture and the place. This morning, who was there with me? You were there, yeah. So, when we were chanting Mangalarati, then, when we were chanting the holy names of the Lord, this time when I went to Mayapur trip, and I think I have mentioned this before also, but I'll reiterate because not everyone has attended the previous sessions. One of my godbrother, Shubha Vilas Prabhu, a very highly realized soul. He's a brahmachari, one of the senior brahmacharis in Chopati temple. When we were traveling from somewhere, I think Advaita Acharya, Shantipur, we were traveling from Shantipur to Mayapur in a bus, and he was sitting next to me, so I thought, let me pound him now. 1 hour I have, so let me ask him as many questions as possible to get the nectar out of him. So I asked him, Prabhuji, how to improve chanting? He said, let me tell you something simple. While chanting, one has to sit erect, and it has helped me tremendously. I never was sitting erect when I was chanting, but now I consciously try to make it a point to sit erect. It pains me here and here. It kills me, but still I try and somehow, sit throughout my whatever number of rounds that I am doing. Sit erect. So that is very important. Straight, the legs folded and the back should be straight. If we chant like this, the moment we start chanting like this, like that, it goes like that after that. Or sometimes people chant like this. The hand is on the pillar here, resting like that. And some of them are completely, relaxed like that. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, like that. And then after some time, Haribol Prabhu, Hare Krishna, like that. So this is happening. This will happen. So to avoid this, then the posture is very important. And he told me very simple. He said, if you maintain an erect back, sit like this and look up like this, have an open stance with your shoulders, not like this. Have an open stance. Sit like this and then look up and then Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Chant loudly. And if you are feeling little bit sleepy, then you can even accelerate the pace of your chanting little bit and chant more louder, so that it just goes away, like that. And again come back to the normal chanting. Again do that. So to vary, like that. But the back erect all the time. And that back erect is also one of the asanas in yoga. Even when you are doing meditation, you will not. Have you seen any yogi meditating like this? Even in yogic pictures, you will see the posture is always erect, back erect. So same principle applies in chanting, Bhakti yoga as well. Sorry, there's a question?
It definitely helped this morning though. Came out of my sleepy chanting. But how do we relate that to the mood in which we are supposed to chant? For example, feel like you should have the mood like you're lower than a grass on the floor, and then you're looking and the posture of the mood doesn't correlate.
Because you're looking up doesn't mean you're not humble than a blade of grass. And it doesn't mean if you're looking down humble than a blade of grass. It doesn't mean that also. You may be looking down because you're sleepy. So
normally if we see someone raising the head, then like you're confident of what you're doing,
Yes, we are confident that the holy name will deliver us.
Okay.
Yes, it's not arrogance. We are not looking like this. Suppose Burijan Prabhu is coming, we don't look at him. Burijan Prabhu, what is the goal of life? Obviously we don't do that. So, I'm talking only about chanting, not about our dealings. Obviously, when sannyasis come, then we don't even look up like that. We just say, Maharaj, can you please bless us? Like that we talk. But when you sit like this, it just means that your body is erect and you will not fall asleep. That's all. Do whatever is required. Of course, if some devotee, see, most of the times our fears are because what other person will think if I am chanting like this in the posture. Will that devotee think that I am arrogant? Okay, no problem. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. That means what? That means I am not now chanting conscious. I am image conscious now. Like that. So we are not image conscious. Whatever works, as long as we are doing it the right things, then it doesn't matter. Some devotee will always find faults. Just as we also find faults with other devotees will also find faults with us. We cannot stop the fault finding process. Whatever works for you in Krishna consciousness, we must go ahead and do that. Genuinely, whatever works. Of course, without breaking whatever the Acharyas have said. So do whatever. Utility is a principle at the end of the day. If you have to have a water bottle and sip water, do not be ashamed that what other devotees will think that he is drinking water. Because I need that to concentrate on the holy name. Right? So then you have to do whatever that is required. In fact, there are devotees who even have acidity problem. So they chant till 6 o'clock and then they run upstairs to what comes out? That Maha fruits. Morning. Sweets, Maha sweets. They have Maha sweets and come. Rather than sitting on your 10th round and then meditating, oh my God, that fellow is having Maha sweets. I have to sit here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. That rascal has gone and eaten the sweets. No? Then better than you stop that chanting. Go and pop 2 sweets in your mouth. Come, be honest about it, and then sit and continue chanting happily. Because at the end of the day, the Lord has not said that you should not have Maha sweets. Of course, He said we must wash our mouth before you chant. That is the rules which Acharyas have given us. But if you really feel, your mind is anyway not allowing you, beating you, towards Rasgulla, then you better eat that and come and chant. Same for Ekadashi also. In Ekadashi, there is no point in being very miserable throughout Ekadashi because, we are, the whole house is down, everyone is yelling at other fellow. Irritation is there because now I can't eat grains. You have to do it happily. Or Nirjal fasting. Yamuna Lila corrected me many years back. Janmashtami, I tried Nirjal fasting. It didn't work because I have hyperacidity problem, right? So I had headache and I was just yelling at home. He said, why don't you simply sit down in one place, I'll give you something to drink. And then I was very nicely after that, Krishna conscious mode. I was very nice Krishna book and doing services like that. So we have to be practical. What is the point in showing to everyone that I am a big yogi, I can do all these austerities, but at the end of the day, inside our heart, we are not thinking of Krishna. What is the point in like that? Better be honest, upfront, and then think of Krishna, isn't it? But it doesn't mean that you should not do Nirjal. If you can, you must do. Eyes must be closed or open while chanting. The ears should hear the holy name. The eyes can be open and still we can be asleep. And we have all learned the trick in school. We can keep our eyes open. And in Bhagavatam class also we have picked up that skill set of keeping the eyes open and then like that. And then our mind is not there. And the speaker sometimes asks a question, like that. What happened? What did he speak? Like that. Or attentive chanting, which means eyes can be closed and still we can chant attentively. It doesn't mean whosoever eyes are closed are chanting attentively. It doesn't mean also like that. The reverse is also not true. Eyes closed also can be in yoga nidra. The person has gone into sleep like that. Personally for me, closing my eyes works with opening my eyes in between. Especially when I am chanting in the temple. Mostly closing the eyes, but in between opening the eyes. Especially sometimes the mind also disturbs. So what happens? Better to open the eyes. For example, you are chanting Hare Krishna, and then you see the door opening, creak, and then someone is entering. And your mind is now thinking, who must have entered? So better to open the eyes. Oh, Murli Prabhu has entered. Okay, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Rather than another wander around thinking, who might have entered? Just open and then close. It happens sometimes. It happens? It doesn't happen to you. Because you are sitting on the other side. I am sitting on this side. Every 5 minutes somebody is opening the door.
Actually, most of the time I see the photo of either Radha Krishna or Prabhu.
Which is good. So if you can see that is good. Yeah. Okay. So posture, place helps in attentive chanting. And in Ashtanga Yoga, steadiness of the body is very important. There is no rocking back and forth. Whereas in Bhakti Yoga that is allowed, sometimes Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, all that rocking is allowed. Anything that helps you remember the holy name. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting. Like that. Sorry, you had a question?
Like when we are chanting, we are more than we hear our own voice, we hear somebody else chanting. So is that chanting? Is that like are we focusing on the holy name, or we just like listening to the other chanting?
Yeah. So there's a practical
when we are
suggestion.
Chanting in the morning or.
Yeah. So this morning it happened to me also. Muralidhar Prabhu was sitting next to me, and he was chanting so loudly that I couldn't hear my chanting. Of course, before I could tell him, he walked. He went out for some time. So I didn't have to tell him. You are there, no ahead of him. Only the Prabhu chants very loudly. Okay. So, but otherwise the option is either if you have a relationship with the devotee, say, Prabhu, I want to hear what I am chanting. Can you chant a bit slowly? But if you don't have a relationship with the devotee, don't try it. No. Then he may give it back, he or she.
Wear
earplugs.
Or wear earplugs. Yes. That is a good option.
How about we hear our own here?
You can hear better.
Much
better. I tried earplugs. For me, earplugs, I go to sleep when I put earplugs. Because I cannot have absolute silence. I come from Bombay. I am not used to silence. So I am not in a natural state. When I put earplugs, then I just doze off. Like that. So some noise is required for me to chant attentively. House was also near the railway line. No, not like that. In Japan it was. Our house was near railway line. So we got used to that. The trains going and then you sleep very nicely like that. So I am used to it. So I don't have a problem. For me, I don't read silence. So if there is too much of silence, then I feel sleepy. Some noise is required. So it's good that door opening, walking, closing. At least it keeps me awake. Like that. But you can request the devotee to chant softly so that you can also hear like that. In fact, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Keshav Prabhu was mentioning, he used to chastise severely if devotees used to chant very loudly and disturb. He says, chant softly. He used to instruct disciples, chant softly. When we also chant, we must not be too loud to disturb other devotees, because then it becomes an aparadh to the other devotees. We should not inconvenience other devotees by our spiritual ecstasies. If we have any ecstasies, we can go outside to the garden and chant alone. If we have special feelings for the Lord, like that. Otherwise, chant only, what you can hear. That is more than enough. Like that. Okay. So, importance of celibacy, we already discussed that enough. Strict celibacy must be there for jnana and dhyana process. Only in bhakti, the conception of householder, brahmacharya, is allowed because it offers higher taste. We discussed that also. Then, the final point Prabhupada is making here is the importance of being fearless or vigata bhir. Being fearless. In Ashtanga Yoga, it is very important to be fearless. Why? First of all, you are leaving the home, then you are going to a forest, secluded place. It becomes dark, and then you will get, the owl will start. Like that. Disappear, then you will be back in Melbourne the next one. Like that, okay? Even in the farm, it's a bit scary, coming for Mangalarti in the farm. Sometimes when nobody is there, you're walking through the bushes and then suddenly you think, what's going on here? Everything is very dark. You're not used to it like that. Whereas so Ashtanga Yogi has to be Vigata Bhir. You don't have your cell phone also with you when you're doing Ashtanga Yoga to call any helpline, right? You have to be absolutely fearless. Now, this is difficult for a conditioned soul, because a conditioned soul, Prabhupada says, is always fearful. Why Prabhupada says fearful? Because of? No, Prabhupada writes a specific word. Please read the purport carefully.
Perverted memory.
Because of perverted memory. Now, what does that mean? What does fear got to do with perverted memory? Memory of what is not there? Correct. The memory of relationship with Krishna is gone. The Sambandha Gyan is not there. That is what is called as perverted memory. Because Prabhupada says we have forgotten Krishna. Because a person who is not a devotee does not know the Bhaktsa Vatsala feature of the Lord, the protective power of the Lord. Because a person who is following Ashtanga Yoga does not have dependence on the Lord. He is only dependent on himself for achieving the goal of Ashtanga Yoga. So therefore it becomes very difficult. Whereas for a devotee, it's relatively easier to become fearless than a normal condition, other non-devotees. Because devotees know that somewhere at the back of the mind, Krishna will protect. Somewhere that feeling is always there, that faith is there, that the Lord will not absolutely let us down without anything. He will lift us at some point in time. He may give some test, but He will always protect us from dangers like that. So devotee knows. Because now why Prabhupada is writing this is because Prabhupada is clearly trying to delineate the Ashtanga Yoga or any other forms of yoga from Bhakti Yoga. What is unique about Bhakti Yoga? The aspect of surrendering to the Supreme. The aspect of surrender is not there in other yogas. In that sense, if you like. Surrender, what are the components of surrender? Anukulyasya sankalpa, Pratikulyasya varjanam. Now, Anukulyasya sankalpa and Pratikulyasya varjanam is also there in Ashtanga Yoga as yam and niyam. Does it make sense or no? What is Anukulyasya sankalpa? Accepting whatever is favorable. Pratikulyasya varjana is rejecting whatever is unfavorable. Now, that is also there in Ashtanga Yoga. Yam means what? Reject whatever is unfavorable. And niyam means what? Accept which is favorable. So, that is the commonality. But there is no Rakshishiti Visya Viswaso and Goptritve Varanam Tatha. That is not there in Ashtanga Yoga. What is Rakshishiti Viswaso? The faith that Krishna will protect. And Goptritve Varanam Tatha. That the Lord will maintain. I can depend on Him. So that aspect of dependence and fearlessness does not characterize the other yoga systems, which is only the speciality of Bhakti Yoga, like that. No, that's why Srila Prabhupada is saying, due to perverted memory they lose it, because there is no Sambandha Gyan. Surrender element is missing. And the supporting reference for this is also given in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.37. You can read it offline. So, Srila Prabhupada is, so Lord Krishna is highlighting the process of Ashtanga Yoga in these sections. Okay, so we have completed till 13 and 14. So 15, 17 and the next we will take it up in the next class, because it's already 9:06 now. Okay. Any questions or comments? Yeah.
You have the great world. You can't sit straight and study and all those. So what you do?
If you have a back problem and you can't sit straight. In fact, it is said that if you have a back problem, it is better to sit straight. I don't know. We have orthopedic. Yeah. Oh, you have to tell her. Physiotherapy. Sorry, I always get confused. Yeah, physiotherapist. So, is sitting straight good or bad?
It is good.
It's good.
You can use a pillow maybe to support your back, so that your posture is corrected. So you can maintain your arch as well. So better you can use a pillow or really sit close to the wall.
Today we did that. Sachin Prabhu was struggling, with the back. So we rolled that mat, and I was also using, So I roll a mat. When it becomes a little bit unbearable, then roll a mat and keep it here, and you will suddenly feel that it's perfect. The back is again straight, and then I move that thing up and down as required. Then it helps. You try. When you come next time, we'll chant together. I'll roll that. That will be my seva for you. Huh?
I chant loudly. You can't hear.
You chant loudly, huh? Then I'll put that mat behind you and I'll leave the place. Do you have extra earplugs? Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Prabhu,
yeah.
I've heard and read somewhere that walking and chanting is not recommended. Is that true?
Srila Prabhupada used to walk and chant. So I have not heard that I have not heard that walking and chanting should not be done. I have not heard like that. But if we have heard like that, there is some merit to it, because when we are walking, then we have to see what is in front of us. Right? Then we are not hearing the holy name. We are seeing what is in front of us. Like that. No. There is one person who has that ability to do it. Walking with his eyes closed and perfectly doing it. Or Jai Jagannath Prabhu, Johnny Prabhu. I am amazed how he does that. He is always, his eyes are closed, but he is perfectly circling that Tulsi plant, round and round. Earlier I tried it once and I was going somewhere else. I was going to fall on another devotee. I don't know where the hell I am walking. So I have to open my eyes and see, where I am. Okay, fine. Now Prabhupada has come. Otherwise I will go and bang into the Prabhupada and fall down. Trip and fall over my face. I don't want that problem. So walking, whatever enables you to chant attentively, you have to try what to do. But in my own case, let me be very honest and tell you what is my realization. I always used to walk after 4 rounds or 5 rounds. I couldn't sit because of the back problem. Because I was always chanting like this. So there was immense pain I used to get here and there. But since Shubha Vilas Prabhu gave me that guideline, and you know that, I am able to do at least 17 rounds sitting in one stretch. Sitting on the floor. I can do it. I've seen that. I can do it. I'm able to do that simply because of that instruction of his. Though I also have a back problem. My lower back also pains. My upper back has a problem. The only pain that I'm getting severely is here. These two. But I have to work out something for that. Because of sitting down on the floor. But sitting erect, definitely, you're with
sometimes people are sleepy, then they little bit time down.
Yeah, if you're feeling sleepy, then you are. But if you're sitting erect, then you will not feel sleepy. Even if you're feeling sleepy, you'll be able to manage. If you sit erect and look up and chant loudly, there are other ways of overcoming sleep than walking and chanting, like that. So because sometimes walking and chanting you get tired also after so much walking. Then when you sit, then you feel then you go to sleep after that. Like that.
But if you get a secluded place like a park or something, if you go to a secluded place like a park early in the morning, and walking and chanting is fantastic.
Not recommended.
It's good. It's good. Yeah. It's good, but there can be other challenges in the park. The mind is very, let me tell you very clearly. You go to the park, you will see two people romancing, then the mind is going somewhere else.
Not early.
What to do?
Very early at 4. Whatever.
You are in Melbourne, Australia. Yeah. After Friday night drinks, most of the people are outside only, till 4 o'clock. Our Mangalarti coincides with, they are retiring, Very difficult. No, I'm just saying, so this is a practical aspect. So when there is distractions, or something will be going on, somebody will be walking and then suddenly you will observe why that fellow is wearing the hat like that, and then the mind will go somewhere. Same problem as we have in chanting in tram also. In tram also you can say sit and chant. Somebody will come in, somebody will go out, some crazy fellow will come, and you will be looking at him. Why he is so crazy? Mind will start analyzing all that.
Just the tram nurse or the train nurse itself will affect what you are hearing actually.
Yeah. So the best thing is to sit at home in front of the deities or come in the temple and preferably chant in association of devotees. For me, the most attentive chanting is when I come to the temple and chant. At home, there is freedom to do, and that freedom ensures that my chanting is not good. Because she is not going to yell at me. After some time, I'll tell her, no, you don't understand, I have a problem. Like that. And she'll say, okay, sit. But in the temple, at least for the sake of our image, we have to sit direct and chant. Somebody will say, Jagannath Ram was sleeping. At least to prevent that, I have to sit and chant. So ultimately, whatever that fear or whatever you call it as bhakti, benefit is there. You are doing attentive chanting. So it doesn't matter. Yes.
Just adding one point, our Guru Maharaj explained that just to bring our seriousness and attention to chanting, we should think that when we are taking the name, Krishna is personally present in front of us. Because I look at the picture of the photos of Radha Krishna, and then that brings me back to that attention, that I'm seriously chanting with full attention. Yeah. So that really helps.
Yeah, it really helps. Yeah. Because we get realization that Krishna is a person, and that probably one is the straight back, that is helping me. But another thing which is helping me is that I'm just fresh out of the altar when I am chanting, and that helps me immensely. It helps me immensely because just you have bathed Gaur Nitai and then you are coming in. So I like to reminisce on that whole pastime. And Keshav Prabhu told me, you must think about what services you have done and then chant in that mode. So the first few rounds are simply very good because you are just fresh out of the altar, and that helps me actually. Because in the altar, you are reminded constantly that the Lord is a person. Especially when you are bathing the deities, then you are reminded constantly that He is a person. Because now you are actually dealing with a personality there, like that. And then when you come out, that consciousness is still there. And then when you chant, then you are much more conscious when you are chanting. So it helps like that. Yeah. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki.